Welcome everyone to another day of awesome FileMaker training here at fmtraining.tv, where we've got cute dogs and puppies and dogs. There we go. He's so cute. Welcome everyone. I am Richard Carlton, the creator of fmtraining.tv, along with my merry cast of support staff. We would call you Oompa Loompas. That was Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, and all the Oompa Loompas are running around doing all the work. So yeah, and then the poor guy, and the kid gets stuck to the chocolate pipe or whatever because he tried to drink the chocolate. So watch out for that. So Kyle is here with us today. Margaret is here with us today. Is going to be an awesome day. Today is a very basic day. I want to caution everyone up front. Very basic. So if you have a lot of high expectations, basically we have an advanced 4-day coming up on valueless with Nick Hunter. And so the job today is to give you Richard's take on the basics of this. If we have time, I think we'll probably have time. We will be covering kind of a conversation with Kyle. Kyle, a little bit more advanced stuff that Kyle does. But remember, Kyle and Nick are like matter and antimatter. We can't put them in the same meeting together. Otherwise, there would be an explosion, and I don't want to have to clean that up. What I want to do is let everyone know we broadcast on Discord, YouTube, and Twitch in high definition, all 3 platforms. Pick the platform that's right for you. Watch it the way you want to watch it. Have it your way, right? So what I'm going to do is press a button. Upcoming broadcast schedule. I alluded to this briefly. So today is the basics. Tomorrow's keeping your greasy fingers off your mouse, right? So having users, not developers, but users in browser mode, interacting with FileMaker without using a mouse. It's more than just tabbing between things. There's some other things you can do. So Calvin will be working on that tomorrow and showing that off. There'll be a sample file associated with that. Now, today is the pre-warm-ups for the Nick. So you see value list held day 1, 2, and 3, 4. This is kind of like a very early warm-up to that. So like real basic fundamentals, some things you need to think about, because I guarantee that most of you probably don't think about value lists in the correct way of what they are and how they work. So we're talking about value lists today. Today's the basics, and once again, if today's too basic for you, then you want to dial in on these other days here. Once again, 1 o'clock, where you found us right now, is the time slot we broadcast every day, Monday through Friday. So very, very exciting. So let's talk about, real quick, if you want to support the channel and you don't have our training, please go out and go to fmtraining.tv, go to the products page if you want, or just come down here and click the bundles page. We don't sell the courses individually anymore. It's just too many courses. And so we have a bundle that allows you to get all our training for one price. It's an annual subscription. This one here actually comes with a ton of stuff, including a full version of FileMaker for you to do development on. It's great. This one over here is just the video training by itself. If you're looking for a 2-year bundle, let us know. Shoot us an email to support@rcconsulting.com, and say, hey, you're looking for the 2-year bundle deal, and we will give you that link, and then Margaret can also post it here as well. And then Brian is there. Welcome, Brian, on YouTube as well. So let's talk about this today a little bit. I'm going to start things off on the low-hanging fruit side of the conversation. I created a very basic sample, a value list, a basic file here. And what I wanted to do is kind of start to demonstrate things. So we're going to focus at the top and work our way down a little bit. But the road to hell is paved with not knowing what's going on. And it can be a little frightening if you're in flight with a customer who's using a solution and you actually discover how value lists actually work. So what I want to do is I'm going to use the keyboard shortcuts in my hand. I'm going to make myself a little more narrow here. I guess we could put it over here like this, right? So I'll be in the middle here. For those of you wondering about this, I'm going to try to put myself here as centered as I can a little bit. Turn the camera. There we go. So I'm centered. And then if anything pops up over here, you should see what's going on. So real quick, I'm going to go Command-Shift-D with my left hand. So I'm going to get into field definitions. We're going to see that we actually have only one table. And in that table, we have basically a text field here. If I do, basically it's a text field here and a text field here. This is a text field that does nothing. This text field auto enters a 0, okay? And then just by way of comparison, we have a number field here and a number field that auto enters a 0. And the whole point of this is to basically, if I create a new record, I just create a brand new record, Command N, so I'm not teaching you how to use FileMaker, I'm just assuming that you already could do that, or press the new button up here. And Margaret, if you see questions along the way, feel free to feel free to throw them out there. Organ Dean, welcome, Organ Dean. A very basic conversation today, but it's kind of one of those important ones. So here's the deal with value lists. So when you start off with a text field, this right here, if I go to layout mode, I'm going to move myself out of the way for now.
Actually, we do have a quick question. Did you see the one on YouTube from Maria? What about checkboxes and web view with is that JSON? Will you give an example?
Okay, I haven't even explained what a list view is. You need to come. Yeah, that's not this conversation, right? So, yeah, it's not this conversation. This is the basics of it. If you want to do checkboxes with JavaScript, that's a Kyle Williams question at the end of the broadcast. I'm sure I know Kyle has a sample with that in there working. So Kyle, if you want to kind of write that question down for Maria on YouTube, or Margaret, if you want to pass it to them, that's fine. So once again, today we're starting basic, then it gets more advanced. Maybe by the end of the hour, we can let Kyle spend the last 15 minutes or beat on the more advanced components of it. So understand that at the very basic level, these fields here are all three of these fields are the same field. These three fields here are the same field. Okay. So all we did over here is we took a copy of the field. I'm using the Option key or Alt key or whatever it is on Windows, and I Option drag it. It makes a copy. I say that's the field, and all I can do is I can click on here, come over to layout mode with the right pane over here. So in layout mode, I have the right pane. I specify the data panel from the right pane. Too many P's. And right here you could select a control style. So this is the basics of it. So you can select a pop-down list. You can set a pop-up menu, a checkbox, a radio button. A radio button checkbox are very, 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 very similar. Okay. So then you specify a checkbox, and what you can do is say what we're saying is have the checkbox illuminate, turn on, if the value is contained in the field. So real quick, this is kind of a very big fundamental. I know everyone's like gets this, right? But if I click this right here, so if I'm going to zoom in real quick over here, so I have this value, let me cancel. So I click on the field right here. I select a checkbox set. Then I say I want to show when do I want checkboxes? Well, I want a checkbox. Show me a checkbox for only one, right? And that's kind of what this one is. And then, or show me a checkbox for 0 and 1, right? Or you could do another one. Show me a checkbox. If I zoom out a little bit, I say create a new one. I'll say a checkbox for Kyle, right? Just some random call it. That's the name of the checkbox, and I could put whatever I want in here. Okay, it's very, very. What I'm saying, this is such a fundamental, important. People want to go buy this, but just stay with me here because you must understand this fundamentally. And so let's talk about this. So forget about everything. Well, that's a lot of Richard. Woo! All right, so forget everything below this. Forget all that stuff. Just look at the top one straight across that way. Okay. If I go back to browse mode, this is the text. If I say Bill, okay, nothing. If I say Kyle, I get a checkbox. Okay, you're like, pretty cool. Now, what if I say Sally? What if I say 541? Okay, right? What if I go up here and I put in a value? I put in a 1. So fundamental understanding is that these are going to illuminate or turn on if that value is in here somewhere. Okay. Now, this is the important fundamental right here. If you're not a FileMaker person, you haven't been around for a while, you're going to get burned by this sooner or later. If you have Kyle, for example, selected over here, or I have the number 1 selected over here, and if I click this, right, what is going to happen? Well, it won't be there anymore, right? The checkbox turns off. And so what does it actually do? This is, listen to my words very carefully. This is so important. It's going to go to that field and remove that value out of the value list. It's going to remove it or delete it. It doesn't delete the whole thing unless that's all that was in there, right? It removes it. So by putting a 1 on here, okay, now remember, I'm going to put a 1 in here. So what are the rules that FileMaker will say, right? The rules is that it will put in a value of 1. It doesn't care where it goes. It always operates at the end. So if I put the 1 back in here, like I say, oh, I want to undo, I want to undo, I want to undo, I want to put it back where it was. It doesn't work that way, okay? It's going to put the 1 at the end, okay? So FileMaker, in terms of valueless, doesn't care. Doesn't care where it goes. It just is in there somewhere, okay? Now, the important thing is, and I found this out the hard way, so ask me how, and all of you, Stu, and everyone else there, Blair, welcome everyone. If I feel like I'm not being friendly, it's because I'm the broadcast engineer, I'm the moderator, and I'm also the talent all in one day. It's a heavy load to lift. So, and Margaret, if you see questions, to be able to throw those out. Yeah, it would be cool to get an example as I have. And we're going to talk about a little bit more. It's going to get more progressively more complex as we go along here. So understand that that it removes the value. So what if we have like Kyle? So we have Kyle in there. If I lose Kyle, then put Kyle back in. Kyle removes it, puts it back in. What if I have Kyle? Okay. And then I have, so that's 1. I commit the record, it illuminates. What if I put Kyle twice? Something else to keep in mind, right? Is it going to get rid of, and I have to make it a little bit bigger here just for giggles. There we go. So will it remove 1 or both? Okay. It's very linear. It's going to remove 1. It finds 1 and removes it. And so you're like, so that was interesting, right? So you see that? So what if you had Kyle in here twice, right? See what happens? It's a subtlety, right? You're like, click it. Nothing happened. It didn't work. It did work. You just can't see it because it was double stuffed. It's like Oreo cookies with the double stuff inside, right? You had double stuff. It removed the stuff, and then you click it again, it removes it again. And then if you click again, it puts it only in once, right? Interesting, right? Now, let's talk about this. So a lot of times when I am building a solution, I'm very binary. I like to search for 0 and 1. I'm very explicit. Give me all the records. For example, we had a system I built years ago for a company called Conference Planners. We would do the trade shows for Oracle, PeopleSoft when they existed, for Cisco systems. We'd have 20, 30, 50,000 people coming in there, and every person was a contact record in the database. And we had this field called, let me show you what happened. This is awesome. So I had a field call, and anytime we would define a flag field, like a flag, they're active. We call it flag, and that way they group together as names. So I would say flag QA. And flag QA meant that someone had registered online, right? Someone registered online. And then there was the QA department with humans, human people, and they would look at the registration and make sure it looked okay, because some of these people coming were executives or CEOs, and they don't know how to capitalize their name. And so they would make sure that their names are capitalized, their titles look correct. They were, like, for example, people come to a conference, they want to hang out with the rest of the people at their company, right? But you'd have a Cisco employee would go, oh, I'm with Cisco. No. The next person says, I'm with Cisco Systems. No. I'm with Cisco Systems Ltd. or INC, and so you'd have 12 different names of a company for really one company. So there was a QA process that went in, a human process that went into this. So we say flag QA, okay? And then what we want to do is we want to say that, I'm going to say, okay. And so you're going to see the road to hell here is paved with this. I'm going to junk this stuff for right now because it really doesn't further the conversation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here. I'm going to put the flag QA. So we start off with a flag QA. Now, for me, I want a checkbox, right? I want a 0 or a 1, right? I don't want a 0 and a 1. What I want is on the screen, I want a checkbox. Okay, so I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say I want a checkbox. I'm going to zoom in. Here we go. I would come over here to the right layout mode, right pane, right panel. This is the data panel. See, you click over it. You can see the appearance, styles, position. Okay, so I'm going to come down here. I say I want a checkbox, and I want a checkbox of just 1 only. I put 1 only, so you know what that is, right? It's only a 1, okay? And I put a 1 there. And so then in your database, if you have this flag, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in. I think, is this it here? There we go. So I'm going to zoom in on this, right, a little bit. And you can. I'm going to zoom in here. And so in your database, you have this thing over here, right? And you're like, so QA'd or something right there. You'd say, yeah, has it been QA'd or not, right? And so you're like, oh, that's ugly. What does a 1 mean? Because you have users, they're like, what is a 1? I don't know what a 1 is. That's stupid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click over the box. Whoop, not that. Layout mode. And I'm going to get rid of the 1. How do you do that? You just make it smaller like that, right? And then you might make the line a little, go to appearance, and might say, well, the line needs to be, I don't know, a little fatter or whatever. Oop, what am I doing? That one. Or actually, I need to do the... Kyle, are you there? Did I just mess this up? I have to make is it under style? No, it's under here. Checkbox, the checkbox. So you have to select what you want to edit right here. So I'm on that object, but I want to do the checkbox itself. And it's set for this one line that's very kind of like, so let's make it like red in size 2. So that's another trick right there, that in order to edit that part of that element, right? Because when you have an element here, you've got that part, you got that part. You have to click on it and then say you want to edit the checkbox itself. So now we've got that. I'm going to slide over so we don't see it, right? We go to browse mode. So that looks pretty good. And then if I click in there, that means it's QA'd. So if someone QAs it, they check it, then in my logic, I can say, enter find mode, go to all the records that have a 1, or go to the records that don't have a 1, right? And so I'm very binary. I like to have a 0 in there. So initially when records start off, they start off as a 0. So I need to start off. So I'm going to go to here. I'm going to say, let me zoom out. It's off the screen. I need to make this a little bit smaller. Hang on one second. There we go. Okay, I'm going to zoom back in. I'm going to say, click on the QA. I'm going to say options. I'm going to say, give me data, auto enter data of a 0. Okay. And you're like, cool. So we're about to, the bad part's about to happen here, right? The bad part. So you start off with a new record. Okay, the record's 0, right? So it's not illuminated. So if I want to find everyone who's not QA'd, right? Not QA'd, then I can do a search for 0 and I get all the zeros. So do a find for 0, real simple, okay? In a script, okay? Or I want to, so the staff comes in there and say, hey, we're going to QA this thing. So when I QA in here, what happens? Does it get rid of the 0? Or does it, what does it do? Right? And so you check in there and you get a 1, right? So what you're doing is, what you need to do is it almost needs to be like a number field, right? Because if you do a search right now, here's a question, this is a text field. Let's just make sure this is going to work. So if I do a search for 0, I find that's not the one we want. We want the one without that in there, right? So it kind of gets interesting. So let's try that. Let's change it to a number field. Let's see how that works if it's a number field, right? Because you can't really, I mean, let me see if I get myself stuck here. Kyle, are you there? Am I about to stick myself in a bad spot? Okay.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I always use a number field for that. You don't want to return the limited list when you're using binary data.
Yeah, that's the problem. So what you have to watch out for is this situation. If you auto enter a 0 and then you put a 1 in there, it's going to respond to either one. Now it's a number field right now, but it's still coming back, right, Kyle? It's still coming back as because it's a value. When you do a search, you're searching on any value that's in there, right? So basically, you have to be careful about if you want to have a 0 or not have a 0. What does that look like, right? Very, very, very important. It's a trap. Understand that we get rid of it, but if we auto enter it, the only way to had gotten rid of it was with a script trigger, right? So it's where script triggers are kind of useful. I have the sample file. We gave you the link on the sample file. Here it is right here. This is a kind of a Boolean, but what we have is if I go to, I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. I'm going to create a new record. So I'm in a new record. What I want to do is this is a checkbox right here. I wanted to see what's going on here. So I made a copy of the checkbox. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go to the data tab and I'm going to set that checkbox, that field, or is it, it's a grouped object. So let me zoom back out because I just want to see this on group. Yep, thank you. Is that a button on there? Nope, that didn't work. Oh, there we go. We can see it right there. So I got the checkbox set. I'm going to set it to text so I can see what's actually in there. So when you're trying to debug something, so it is the same as this field right here. So those fields are the same, but I just wasn't sure about that, right? So if we zoom back in over here, okay. And so what happens is that there you run a script trigger here that flips it. See the flip here? And so this is a really neat little sample file right here. It runs a script trigger to flip. It just doesn't, add or remove the item, it's actually running a script. So if I come back over here to, and is it the only way to solve the problem? Not at all. Is it one way of 100 ways to solve a problem? Yes, right? So if I click here, it says it's going to run this button and implement it from here. I'm going to step down through that. Oop, where'd it go? Did I just run the whole thing? Oh, script debugger. Hang on. Where'd that go? Okay. Oh, here's what it does. It's actually not even running a script. That's the entire line it runs. And what it does, it's inverting it, right? Boolean. So Kyle, if I put you on the spot, explain to me, everyone, what is a Boolean value? We're going to include you here in the conversation. What is that?
Boolean value is either going to be true or false. A Boolean value is either going to be true or false. In this case, a 1 or a 0 represents true or false. So basically what you're doing is you're having a button, essentially. You're making it a button that tells it to equal the opposite of whatever it is. So if it's a 1, make it a 0. If it's a 0, make it a 1. So it is not. So if the value is 1 and you want to make it not 1, then it's going to be 0.
Yeah.
So you have to think about 1 and 0 as being true and false.
Yeah.
So not true, not false.
So the command is, this is the command. So set this equal to itself. So if we got rid of the not, it would just set it to itself. It wouldn't happen. But this not says it's a flipper, right? It's like, I like to say is, you have this function called isEmpty. But there's nothing in FileMaker called isFull, right? If you think about it, right? Like you could do a search, or is this field empty, yes or no? But sometimes you want to know if it's full. You don't care full of what, just full of something, right? The only way to do it is full is the opposite of is empty. So if you say not is empty, that's the same as is full. It's kind of like a double negative. So that's what this is about. It's flipping this indicator. So all of you have this sample file right here. So the reason why when you're doing a binary is it forces control of that 0 or the 1 in there with the script that sets that. Because remember, a value list by itself either just adds it and appends it, or it finds the item and removes it. And so it doesn't guarantee that you're going to have a clean value set in there, if that makes sense, right? So Ruben says... there
is a question, which I was going to get to you as soon as you paused, which would be now. Stu asked a question about radio buttons.
Yeah, so radio buttons are essentially kind of...
not radio buttons. 1 always is just 1 or no, 1 is 0/1 useful, and Ruben's answer was radio buttons, but you probably knew more.
Well, here's the thing with radio buttons. I mean, okay, so the radio button is where you want to you have like 10 items and you want to select 3 or 4 or 5 of those items in the in that and then so like say if we have, and this is once again as we get more advanced in this, we're going to take it to a point and then we're going to stop for today. But say if I click on this one right here, and it's got a value list over here called, I think the value list is called Kyle, right? We want to edit the Kyle value list. So here's Kyle. I double click it. We got Kyle, we got Stu, we got Brudderman, we got Fred, we got Dick, we got Jane. We'll include Michelle from Montreal. Sorry, misspelled it. We got Wally, and we got Maria, okay? And we say, okay. So what I do is I'm going to come down here and say, okay. It saves it in there. I go, now notice right here, there you go. So there is that. Now I'm going to duplicate it forward. I'm going to move these over here. Move this one over here. I'm going to option drag this with I'm holding down you can't see my left hand, but I'm holding my thumb down on the option key on the Mac. I think it's Alt or whatever it is on Windows. And so it makes a copy and says, oh, are you sure you really want that field? Yes, I want that field. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on it once and say, instead of a checkbox, I want the radio set. So the radio button is not as super useful as you might think. So the checkbox is like, the lazy fox jumped over the moon or something, or the lazy cow, right? So so you have this block of text in here. And then if we say we want Stu, okay, we got Stu. And then I can say I have Fred, right? And so notice that you can select multiple items and then remove them and add them. And it's altering the value list over here, right? So now if I create a new record and I say the lazy fox jumped over the moon, right? And I come over here to the radio buttons, I say Kyle, then I can do Fred, right? And so it allows you to only select one. You're like, hey, that's really awesome, except that I think if you hit the shift key on the Mac or something, then you can add more than one, right? So it's kind of like, it's like in this mode when I'm holding down, you can't really see my hand here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit, but I'm using my finger, right? Using my finger, right? And if I hold the shift key down, then suddenly the radio buttons start acting like checkboxes. So it's kind of like, whatever you want to do, right? Yeah. So that was the problem with what Stu was saying on the previous example. So if we're trying to do a search for 0 or 1, trying to make sure you have the 0 in there is a really important thing, and that's the trick, right? To make sure you have that. And that I ended up finding out about it when I have 30,000 registrants coming to a Cisco conference, and it wasn't working the way I thought it should. And then I found out that my understanding of the value list, and this is FileMaker 6 value list, which are even slightly different than this one, but it's understanding how it really works under the hood is very, very, very important. So the question is so Larry. So I'm going to pivot real quick to Larry's question. So Larry goes, well, why not use value lists with a big database? So Larry was talking about this. So and I hadn't looked at it in a while, but I wasn't following it entirely. So yeah. So Larry does point out one point is that this behavior with the shift key down here, right? If I don't hold the shift key down, then it enforces this kind of behavior, right? If you want to have it behave precisely the way you want it to behave, then you need to follow the methodology over here in this sample file where you have a script that runs on top of it, and then it enforces the logic that you want to enforce, okay? I'm sure there was a reason why this was done, but I'm pretty sure that no one down at Claris anymore knows why this was done, except maybe Clay Mackel, who is one of the longtime guys there. But yeah, it's why it was done that way. It's like, But you don't want to change the behavior now because a lot of people have built solutions assuming and depending upon that functionality, good, bad, or otherwise, right? Once it's kind of ingrained, then people build solutions. You don't want to retroactively break solutions. So the script triggers allow us to override. You put a button on top of it and allow you to override that behavior. So real quick, so I'm gonna. So the idea is like we're on this value list idea, right? And in this, and Nick will get more involved with this. But the idea is that you can take value lists instead of it coming, and this is once again a very basic thing. But we can, the value list, if I zoom in on stuff, if I click over here, the value list, and this is why you have this value list hell that Nick's going to get into. But if I say edit the value list over here, these are value lists that are customized. They're hard coded, okay? A value list that's more useful might be one that automatically generates from the values in a table that are pre-existing. And so, once again, the road to value list hell, I'm just going to cover this real quick because this was because Larry actually emailed me a couple times, one of our moderators here, right? He was asking me about this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pivot over to a copy of Starting Point real quick. So this is the light version of FM Starting Point right here. This is the one we use for training. And so this is what we call Starting Point Light. It doesn't have as many high performance tuning things in it, but it's simpler to understand. It has fewer layouts, etc. So if you come over here to contacts, this is a contact table. I have 18 records. If I go to invoices, what I want to be able to do is say I want to have an invoice. This is basic junior detective FileMaker Training 101. And that is that if I get rid of these items here, let me just get rid of this stuff right here. I don't need them. Oop, I'm gonna keep that out of the way. I'm gonna get rid of the items below here. Okay, so we have this contacts right here, and there's a way that it works right now, but I'm gonna demonstrate the way that most people would build it when they're brand new. They would say, oh, I need this contact name right here. And so what I want to do is I want it to, instead of me knowing exactly the name that's in the contact file, I want it just to display a list of all the people who are in the contacts file, right? This is beyond standard behavior for brand new FileMaker developers. It's not right or wrong, it just is. It just is. And so I'm trying to help everyone understand this. So you come over here and you say, well, I'm on that field. Let me see, I can make this a little smaller. There we go. So I'm on that field over there. I click on it, I go to the data tab. I want to do an edit box, but I want it to be a pop-up menu and show me the pop-up menu from all the people who are in contact. So this is a big long list. I'm just going to create a new value list here. And it's not going to be custom because I don't know the names of every last person who could be in here. It's just not possible. So we say get all the values from contacts, and then find all the people. Just give me their name full. This is how everyone does this. Everyone does this the first time this way. Give me their names in full. That's all I care. Nick is going to dive into all these other options, which are a little bit exciting, could be exciting, but that's basically the next step that most brand new people do. They come over here. They're in their invoice file. They're in browse mode. They create a new record, and they're going to say, show me all the people. Well, these are all the people that are in their contact solution. You're like, oh, this is so awesome. This is great. And I want this person right here. And then you can have it trigger the lookup, and all the data comes over, right? So what I want to do is show you what happens when we talk about it in the in this right here. If I go here and I go here, this is the progression of learning. We talk about it in our book. We talk about our training. We're talking about the people who are in this mode right here. And then between right in here, you start to build FileMaker solutions, and you realize that people want to share them. And when they share them, they put them on the internet, they put them on the network, they start to add lots of records to it. Then you find out that some of the things you thought were really great are not great anymore. And the dialogue with this is very simple. I'm going to leave that over there for the moment. I'm going to go back to FileMaker right here. I'm at that one. I want to go to the mock data generator. Oh, I didn't even save it up here. So I'm going to go to hosts. I'm going to go to dbw 13. It's a test server we have. I'm going to go into a file called mock data. So this is a FileMaker file that we use for testing. It has, I think, 15 gigs of data or something like that in it. Okay. And so what happens is as you start to build FileMaker solutions, you're going to put a lot of records in there. And if I go to contacts right here, and this is across the internet, we have 797,000 contacts in here. There's quite a few contacts in here. And so what I wanted to do was I said, well, let's test. This is why you do testing of your solution under what I would call combat conditions. You're testing it out in the field while bullets are flying by, lots of data sets. When we tested it over here in our little environment, that little pop-up thing worked just great, right? It was over here. It was like, woo, we're over here in invoices. We click the thing. It works great, okay? This exact same solution built over here. I'm in invoices. I'm going to go to invoices. I'm going to say, create a new record right here. And so this same contact field is right here, or the same setup with the same populate it from the contacts database. But it's going to attempt to populate it, shockingly, with 797,000 records. And if I click over here, and it's going to start working on this, I don't know if this will actually ever finish. I never get to the end of this. So right about here, after about 5 seconds, people losing interest. At about 10 seconds, they wonder if their computer has crashed. They start hitting their computer. You know, what's going on? That doesn't work. And then maybe the internet went down, so they check their Facebook or check their Twitter, and like, oh. And then they go, oh, Larry sucks as a developer, right? Or whatever they're going to say. I'm picking on Larry. Larry's moderator. He knows I love him. So I'm going to use him as my target of hate and discontent. And so they see this spinning. Oh, maybe it's backing up. No, it's trying to do a value list of 797,000 people. A total misuse of the technology. So my suggestion is, unfortunately, I have to force quit this because it's unserviceable, right? So I have to force quit it. It's like beyond unserviceable. So the suggestion is to do what we do. I'm going to go back into, move myself over a little bit. Let me see if I can get the doc. I'm going to go, yep, FileMaker crashed. Not sure why. I'm going to reopen it. I'm going to go back over here. It doesn't save it in here because it crashed before it would save into the recent. So I'm going to go host. I'm going to go dbw13. I'm going to come down to the bottom. I'm going to open up the FMSP mock data. There it was right here. And so I'm going to show you what we engineered instead, because sometimes using a value list is not the right answer, right? I'm sure Nick will show you some amazing stuff at the end of this week. And then in a second here, I'm going to kick it over to Kyle Williams. So Kyle, please don't distract them. So Yeah, it's downloading all the records and sorting them and doing whatever it does. So this is what we did instead. So instead of pressing the button right there, if I press it, it crashes again. It's really horrible. I'm going to say new record, and I'm going to use the system that we built in Starting Point. This is why when I say we build FM Starting Point under combat conditions, Starting Point kicks. It can handle millions and millions of records under hundreds and hundreds of users at the same time. It's engineered for success. It's some sort of trademark term from somewhere, but it's true. So watch this. So we want to find someone. Okay, so I'm going to say, so instead of clicking in there getting a list, I'm going to push this button right here. It's all responsive. Click, click, click. 797. Now, what am I looking at? I'm actually looking at a list view, not a value list, a list view, and it allows me to type something. Now, if I type something in here, it's doing the searches, it's doing the finds in real time to limit it down. You could also limit it by when you hit the return key. But let's just say we're looking for Richard. So I'm going to type R-I-C-H. Whoop. There's a Richard. Oh, there's a Richtard. Is that a real name? A Richtard? Okay. A Richtard. I'm a Richtard. Right? So Richtard. So I click on that. It fills it in. High performance. So that's the difference as you're learning the FileMaker platform. A lot of you are here. You're in this mode. It's starting to get the spinning wheel. You're frustrated. Pay attention to the training that we're giving you, the tips that we give you. Take Starting Point apart. Buy the training. Come back to live streams. We're going to teach you how to get to the next steps. Right? That's the whole point. Stu says the contact search card had a download and sort, so the value list is slower. The contact list, I don't think it did a sort. I would not have done a sort on that. Sorting, the road to hell is paved with sorting, Stu. Right, so if I did it again here, I say that's not sorted by anything. That's just the raw records in the order that they were put in the system. So all it has to do is retrieve the a value list, a list view. This is a list view, not a value list. A list view is faster than a portal, faster than a value list. It's faster than anything else on the planet. A clean data entry screen and a clean list view are the fastest things you can do by far. Period. End of story. Okay. Yeah. So we basically popped a new window, basically like a new window in a list view. So the equivalent of what you see right here, if I hit cancel, that's the equivalent of me. I'm going to hold down the modifier key so if I can get this to work. So here's a list view here. So it's the equivalent of me. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, that one I don't need. So basically me doing this and it pops it is basically the same as it popping this list view right here. And if I just pop that, it's instantaneous, right? It's fast. Notice it's not sorted. If I want to sort right now, I feel indigestion coming on. So Kyle, are you ready to do a little dog and pony show, or should I just get a beer? Am I good? Are you ready?
Yep, already.
All right, switch to Kyle mode. So how about we transfer control to Kyle? How do we do that? I got to find the little window. Oh, there you are. There he is.
I've already shared the screen. All right. So right up here, I have the traditional checkboxes that you were just demonstrating. You can select multiple options with checkboxes, and you can select just one option with a radio button, and it shows down here the options that are selected. So if I select multiples, it creates this return to limited list right here of all the values that are selected. So that's what we're used to doing. So I have an alternative approach here where you can customize this. You can give it any kind of icon you want, because this is actually a button bar. So oftentimes I'll do this checkbox here on my layouts, or if I want to put a label, I put a version of the same checkbox, but with a label here. And you can see the Boolean value that it creates right here is either going to be 1 or 0. So that's using that not, and then the value, the field. So not whatever's in this field when you click on this. So uses that same technique. So then I have checkboxes here. These are also button bars. And again, you can use any kind of icon you can possibly imagine. You can make it look however you want. So there's lots of icons you can create. And this works just the same. You can see everything up here is being selected. It's working on the same field.
Oh, hang on. Hang on. cold, frosty one, baby.
There you go. Gotta stay cool. Stay hydrated. So, yeah. So this is Checkboxes. This works on a script. It uses a JSON parameter to tell the script what to do. And also, here's a radio button version of the same thing. It's calling the exact same script. And then it's just saying that I have this radio button here, and I want it to act like a radio button. And also the script, if I want to do a variable instead. So if I go into data viewer here, I see I got the two variables there. So if I select this checkbox, you can see that it toggles it from 0 to 1. And again, that's the exact same script. So there's only one script driving all of these. You can do this from any layout anywhere in your file. So it's a universal script, which I love universal scripts. And then also you can have it call a script. So I've actually set it up so you can call multiple scripts. So this is just calling one script with one parameter, testing checkbox, calling a script. But I can actually have it do a number of different scripts from the JSON parameter. So it's really, really useful. And then sometimes you have this checkbox here that requires a field, and it looks like okay. It's one of those in-flight issues here.
In flight, yeah. Okay. This is your captain.
There speaking. It is. So there, yeah, it says required field 01 is a required field. So you can make this say whatever you want here inside the JSON parameter. So it says this is a required field, so I'm just going to put 1 there. Okay, and then here it says required field 02 is a required field. So that's this other field. So this way you can prevent this from being checked until that field has got data in it. So we'll just say 2 and then try it again. It's updating it there. So this is the problem with creating demo files with only a limited amount of time today. Today I started this demo file, and so you can see here it's got the required fields. So there's where you can map the field. So I'm using get field name in case the field name changes. I'm using a descriptor because this field name could change, and you don't want your message to change. So this is telling the user what field needs to be populated. Oftentimes the field on your layout is labeled differently than your actual field in your database. So this says is required field, but actually I just want to say required field because on my layout, it just shows required field. So that way it makes sense to the user when it says this is a required field. They're not saying globals : is required field. So it's a little more user-friendly that way. And I'm able to do as many as I want because this is a JSON array. So I can do, here I have the 0, the 1, which that's the first field is 0, second field is 1. I can do 2, 3, 4, and so on to make sure that all the required fields are met before the checkbox is enabled. And then you can see here I can also call a script with a parameter. And then again, it's a JSON array, so I can do a whole bunch of scripts, a whole bunch of different parameters. So that's really handy. Let's see. So yeah, just a really quick, simple demo of how you can use button bars in place of the traditional checkboxes. So what it does here is it's calling the script toggle checkbox radio button. So I used to be an Excel programmer, so we start everything, all of our objects start with CBX or checkboxes, and so that's where CBX comes from. It's just kind of habit from years of programming. So the way this works is I'm using this sample parameter here, and then it sets variables, and then I also put in there if you're not a manager. So there's a custom function called isManager. So if you're not the manager, it'll exit the script right away if you have that option enabled. Sorry. So I put that right here in the parameter. So if this is set to 1, then it'll exit right here. It won't let them do anything unless they're a manager. And then here it's going to check the required fields. So it looks at the variable and it tries to get a found count of them. So lists of the required fields, and then it loops through them to check to see if they're all, if any of them are empty. If any of them are empty, it'll do a custom dialog right here, say, hey, this required field here is empty and it needs to be populated first. Then it'll exit. So if everything's all good, we come down here. Here it's going to look to see if that field name is a variable or not. So this could be a global field, it could be a local field, and this just is a Boolean value is variable. And then if it's a variable, it does this block here. It'll follow this logic. If it's not a variable, if it's using a field, then it's going to use this block here to populate the field and update it. I have a number of custom functions in here. Add remove item is pretty handy. You have a list and a value, and then you can toggle this to be add, remove, or auto in order to add the item to the list if it doesn't exist, remove from the list if it exists, or automatically toggle it back and forth is auto. So there's your 3 parameters for this last spot. And then I also have an option in here to commit the records or not. So you may not want it to commit the records while it's checking the box, so you can do Control-Z to undo. Because the moment you commit the records, undo doesn't work. So that's just FileMaker behavior. And then here it's going to loop through the scripts. So it finds all the scripts, counts them, loops through them, calls them all by their ID. So it's using a custom function called getID, and then it's getting the script name from the array using the script's ID. And then it'll pass the parameter for that same array. So that's how that works. And then I just have this to just show that dialog.
The question is the JSON checkbox thing, right? So did you want to briefly, because you were showing that the other day where you're playing with some JSON checkbox in a web viewer, right?
Oh, you wanted to see it in a web viewer?
That's what she said. She said, what about, I'm at the very beginning, and first thing she teased one up. What about checkbox in the web viewer?
That out of the way. So I have, let's see, custom dialog. So those who've been paying attention to my YouTube channel, they've already seen this. But I do have this custom dialog demo in the. So here I have a checkbox. So this is a web viewer checkbox. This is actually customized. So natively in the HTML, it's just a little tiny box here. So because I want it to be big and visible, I added some CSS to it, and I added some JavaScript to toggle it. So this is a checkbox inside of a web viewer.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a lot of things you can do.
I have a question. Is there, if Maria wants this filed, is there any way we can give this to her yet, or is this a shipping file, sample file yet, or is this the one you're doing next week?
So this is one I'm planning to show down the road. So next week we're doing Neil's demo, and also I have a web viewer navigation, a couple web viewer navigation demos, which I was going to share next week.
Okay.
So I'm still kind of fine tuning my checkbox demo. So I was doing, this is a little bit closer to where I'm at. So I have actually navigation inside of this. This is all driven by JSON parameter. So it shows that you can put a bunch of little widgets in here. And then I have multiple checkboxes.
Okay. So
it's just kind of another cool demo that I'm working on. So we'll see how far we get with that.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm not sure if she's still here, she should chime in if she needs the sample file or
not. Yeah, this one has a bunch of fun little widgets in it. There's the color selector, and this does work on Windows as well.
Well, everyone, that's about it for today. It's kind of a grab bag of stuff. Tomorrow is keeping your greasy fingers off the keyboard, and that will be with Calvin. And then Thursday and Friday will be Nick Hunter kicking stuff off with that. So I appreciate it. Kyle, don't wander off yet, okay? I want to coordinate with next week a little bit. Okay, cool. All right, everyone, that's it for now. Appreciate it. See you. Sure.
just stepped up the whole way. Calm, cool, collected the quarterback. Great read, good patience. More importantly, great job up front protecting this quarterback to give you a chance. And that's all you can ask for.
Try to rally down 10. 9:25 to go here in the fourth. Short motion by Amendola from the left. Brady takes the shotgun snap, stands in, throws it left for Amendola, reaches up and snacks a high throw and lands inside the 10, rolling to the 9. Ball slightly behind him, but Danny makes the grab.